Okay, so with me today, I've got Andy Mitchell from Mitchell Digital Media. Andy, thanks for coming on board.
Thanks ever so much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Now, just to give everybody listening a bit of history, we know each other from before. I didn't reach out and say, "Hey, you're doing amazing stuff in your space. Can you come on and talk about it?" Whilst you are doing some really cool stuff, I just want people to be fully in the know that Andy is someone I know from back in the past. In fact, Andy, you helped me put my digital space together,
I did,
which is
yeah.
why I wanted you to come on the pod. And so I appreciate you giving your time, mate.
Well, I appreciate it. No, it's good.
Awesome sauce. So, for those who don't kind of know you, I know it's very formal, this little bit at the beginning, but tell us a bit about yourself, your history, your journey, and how it is you do what you do now.
Cool. So I was before I started MDM, I was a teacher for 10 years, and I was head of film and media, and just kind of got burnt out by the whole teaching thing and a bit fed up of it. And then one day decided, right, I'm going to take the jump. I'm going to start my own social media management company. So resigned, and then
But that was nice.
it was really scary because I didn't have any real plans. I knew social media inside out. I knew I could do something around it, but I didn't have a solid plan. So I resigned and then went, oh, right, I better get a plan in place. And so did, or tried to anyway. And then when I left teaching, I started MDM, and it's been a joy. I love it. I absolutely love doing what I do right now. But it has its own challenges, and I think I was quite naive initially to think, oh yeah, just start your own business, it'll be a piece of cake. And how wrong I was.
Oh, we've all been there.
So I started MDM, and I started off by offering social media management to schools because that was my expertise. But then found very quickly that there were other services I was able to offer that people wanted. So website design, video production, those sorts of things. And people wanted those. It turns out they wanted those more than the social media management. And then over the last 18 months, we've grown that, and to the point where it was just me. And now I've got two ladies I work with, so Haley and Maisie. And we've got a commercial side and the educational side, and it's kind of grown massive, and it's a daily stress trying to keep on top of it, but it's I love it. It's brilliant.
Fabulous. Now, going back to the social media management bit, you started, well, you still do that for people who want it, but what do you suppose the reason is that people are more interested in trying to create a digital space as opposed to social media marketing or management? Because we know that social media can be a very powerful tool.
Social media is a fabulous tool, and it's something that, from a personal perspective, I actually really dislike social media. I think it causes more harm than it does good. But I think that for a business, you would be foolish not to have a really strong presence on social media, because there are literally billions of people on there. And so depending on what business you run, and certainly a martial arts business, you would be foolish not to have a presence online, partly because it's free and it's super easy, but it is such an effective way to contact people. But I think that lots of people don't see that, or if they do see it, they don't see it perhaps as being as powerful as it actually is. And so lots of people focus their time on creating a good website, which is important, and I'll talk about that later. But the social media side of things is something that, once you've got into the rhythm of it, can help grow a brand massively.
Now, I see this all the time with people who do use social media. So I'm interested in your perspective. Do you believe, or with your experience, that it's a good idea to do lots of different platforms? What I mean by this is I see people who try to be really big on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok and all these other platforms. Or would you advise probably best going down one route and then maybe dabbling with the others? What's your experience been on that?
I think it really depends on who your audience is. And so different brands, different companies will have different audiences. And it's the first thing, and ultimately the most important thing in putting together your marketing plan, is working out who are your target audience and where do they spend their time online. That's ultimately what you want to find out, because as soon as you find that out, then you find out, am I spreading myself across several platforms, or am I focusing on one whilst having a presence on all of the platforms? I think really you need to be on several platforms. Just being on one platform really limits your clientele that you're reaching. But I do think that, in my experience, most industries and most audiences have more of a presence, and quite a substantial more presence on one than they do another. So let's take schools, for instance, that I work with. There are two platforms here, but Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, it's mostly the parents, because only old people use Facebook, apparently.
Whoa, by old, you mean our generation? I'm a little bit older than you, but yeah, my kids tell, oh, sir, you're on Facebook. It's like, yeah. So we don't use that anymore. That's for older people. I'm like, dude, I'm in my 30s. How old do you think I am?
And that's why I said it, because it is that when I'm in schools and the kids will say, where's this going? I say, it's going on Facebook. I'm like, oh, Facebook's for old people. I go, oh my God, come on, man. It's not.
No,
but
we don't think we're old.
No, right.
But I'm closer, as I've said before, I'm closer to 40 than I am 30.
Right. And so yeah, and that's the thing, though, is that you've got children, I've got children who are going into school, and so if you are a school and you're trying to hit a target audience of parents, then you need to be on Facebook, and you need to know where that audience sits. Now, our generation sit on Facebook predominantly. Younger than us, they tend to be on Snapchat or Instagram or other platforms. So with the schools, we hit Facebook for the parents, and we target them and we create content for them. And then when we're creating content for Instagram, we tweak it so that the wording is slightly different or more appropriate for the teenagers or the young people that we're working with. And then we have Twitter as well, and don't get me started on Twitter.
I'm not big on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie. So let me slow down. I've always struggled with Twitter. I use it as like a passing, but I've never invested any time into it because I just don't get it. Mm-hmm. So what is the benefit of Twitter? Who's Twitter targeted towards?
So Twitter's it is a really useful platform. It's really it's niche. So if you might get involved, for instance, with an online discussion in Twitter about martial arts, and that's great, and then people might recognize you if you continue those conversations. But what Twitter requires is really heavy investment in order to establish yourself. Right. And so, and it's not a difficult thing to do to establish yourself, but it requires time.
So you might want to get someone else to do it for you if, as a busy martial arts owner, you don't have the time. Because we're trying to balance books, we're trying to sort out health and safety, we're trying to do retention, we're trying to work our retention systems with our clients and our customers and our students. So something like Twitter might not be something that we have the time for.
No, and I just, I wouldn't get bogged down with it. And you raised an interesting point there about getting somebody else to do it. And so we've just recently written a blog post about this, but about outsourcing your social media management, because we're all on social media. We all think we know social media, but actually, do you really know social media? And don't get me wrong, you probably do, because I know that you spend a tremendous amount of time on there.
True, but I also have to do constant research every time the platforms that I use change their algorithms, and that's what I struggle to keep up with, which is a pain in the butt.
And when you talk about stuff like that, so Facebook, for instance, are constantly changing algorithms. So to keep on top of that is a really, really difficult thing. And even as a social media manager, I sometimes fall foul of that. I'll post something and go, why isn't that performing? And I look into it and I go, that's right, it's because Facebook have changed this metric. And then all of a sudden I have to then change everything across all of the things we're producing. So if you don't have time for that, then outsource it. I outsource my accountancy because I don't have time to sit down and do the numbers.
You and me both.
Right. But I think that's, rather than try and muddle it together myself, I just pay a professional to do it.
So you save time.
With social media management, if you're not confident in it, and just, there are organizations out there like Mitra Digital Media, or, there are others available too, but we will manage that social media for you, and then you don't have to worry about it. It's a relationship. It's not a service. So with my accountant, I just pass everything over to them, and they do what they need to do. And with a social media manager, it's not the case. It's much more of a relationship. You have that constant dialogue. And so the posts we're putting out, we're referencing and making sure that it's the content you want to put out. And we research your audience, and we make sure that everything is on the right tone, and we're talking to the right audience so that you are creating that engagement.
I think I want to stop you there. I think that's really important, because I've come across companies before who have used social media managers, and some of the feedback that I've gotten, because people do ask, how is it that your media does well? It's like, well, I invest a lot of time and effort into researching what the algorithms are looking for, so I can basically please the algorithm gods. But their feedback will often be that the media managers don't care. They'll just put a whole bunch of posts out, and because they've put their posts out, they've done their job. If it doesn't perform very well, that's not their fault.
And that's the difference between a bad social media manager and what we do. And I really pride ourselves on what we do. We don't just create content and put it out there. The content is created with a purpose, with a voice, with a tone, with all this stuff. It's the industry of social media management is full of people who are on social media and think, I know what I'm doing. I'll just be a social media manager. And but
funnily enough, there are some similarities in martial arts.
Oh, is there?
I might get a bit of slack for that, but there was a time where it's like, I'll go buy a black belt because it's an unregulated industry. I'll go and open up a school. I'll teach.
Right, so really similar there.
Very similar there.
Because actually, when somebody approaches you and says we can do X, Y, and Z, well, great, but let's see some evidence of that. And so the one thing that at MDM that we can do is we can show you evidence, and obviously some of it is protected for data protection, stuff like that, but we can show you the actual
can show figures, you can show stats.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have had a positive impact. And let's say, for instance, we're working with a brand over several months and we notice that actually we're not having the impact we have. We are straight up with those people and we say, look, we're really sorry, this isn't going to work for us because we're not giving you the results you deserve. I'm not going to draw that out over a year and then at the end have a disappointed customer, because ethically that doesn't sit well with me.
I love that.
And I think it's really important. I want people to come to MDM and to me because they trust what I do and trust they trust in what we can produce for them. And ultimately, I don't want to let a brand down. I'm working with small businesses. The last thing I want to do is to fail a small business, because as a small business, I understand how important that investment is.
Oh, big time.
And if you're not seeing a return on that investment, then that's just money down the drain. And so I get that. I understand that.
And with what we've been going through with COVID, digital space is extremely important. I think it has been for a long time, but it's in the martial arts industry, it's probably something that we have not really utilized all that well. Some have done it really, really well. I'm talking very generally here. There are a lot of people who don't use digital space to its maximum because either they don't know how, or they haven't got the time to learn, or they simply don't have the budget to get someone else to do it. So would you advise, for those who maybe don't have the budget, that they could find someone in their student body, like a teenager or a young adult who's very good with social media, and be like, right, you look after our Instagram account for a bit, just keep it ticking over, keep things going, keep putting stuff out there, because they're more savvy with the technology than, say, we are. And by we, I mean, my generation of martial arts instructors.
Yes and no. Yes, that's a really good idea in terms of having somebody dedicated to doing that. At least that you've got that covered. If you don't have the budget, if you don't have a long-term budget for social media management, then so we offer a media training, social media training.
Oh, wow.
So it's a much smaller one-off fee, and we essentially train you to do what you need to do.
Nice.
Which is kind of stupid because we're
putting yourself out of business. But I like that, because not everybody's got the money to invest in a long-term social media strategy.
And it's really,
because we've got hall rentals and staff and new equipment and insurance and DBS, and if you're doing it right, of course, all of the other costs that go with it. And with COVID having smashed a lot of the smaller businesses, there's simply not the money to invest.
So we offer a one-day training where it can be done over digitally or in person, and we provide you with templates. And so we kind of point you in the right direction of how do you work out who your audience are. Some templates for creating content. So a bit of a tutorial around Canva. Canva is an amazing tool. So
for those who can't see, I've got a puzzled look on my face. What the heck is Canva?
So Canva is this fabulous website, and for most of it, it's free. And you can go and create content for social media, and they have templates for you to use. And don't get me wrong, I spend a lot of time in Canva, and so I can recognize now online when people are using
Canva.
It.
Oh, nice.
But if you are struggling with your budget, it is absolutely brilliant. Honestly, it's I say it's priceless, it's free, but it is a priceless asset.
And just to be clear, you're not sponsored by Canva.
Absolutely not.
So Canva, if you're listening, and needs a sponsor, guys, he's just done you a solid.
They want to sponsor me, absolutely. My renewal's up soon. So. But it is a really, really good tool. And,
awesome.
So stuff like that, and there's plenty of bits and pieces like that out there. So you can take a picture of your phone. They've got a really great app. Drop the picture in, put that on social media, and all of a sudden you've created this kind of brand without having to do all of that hard work. Now, if you're on a budget, then great, do that. But you need to know when to post. You need to know where to post. You need to know those things, and that's what that kind of day of training is. You could get somebody in your organization to do that for you, but you would need to be confident that they're able to do it, because sometimes they could do more harm than good.
So you've got to make sure they're a cultural fit.
Yeah.
Or are you talking about the algorithm?
Well, both. Well, no, not so much the algorithm. I'm talking about, if somebody is pushing your content, and you're not checking it, and you're just letting them go and do what they want, they might have a different set of morals to you, and so they might be posting stuff that doesn't fit with your brand that you have in mind.
So if you're like a club, and just kind of bring it to a basic standing, if you're a club that focuses on kids and they're posting out like videos on MMA and all that kind of, because they enjoy that kind of content, that doesn't match what you're trying to put across.
Not at all. And that could have some lasting damage on your brand. And so you need to, I think if you're going to do that, if you're going to have somebody in your organization who is going to take over that role, there needs to be very, very clear brand rules of what is okay, what is not okay, and that is agreed between you. Because it can, one post probably won't do too much harm, but if that's continuous posting, it could have a really detrimental effect to the brand, to the kind of image that you're trying to convey on social media.
That's a good point. So I don't know if I'm sure you probably do, but we've already alluded to the fact that something like Facebook is good for our generation, 30s, 40s, with children. And for a club like mine, that's exactly who we're trying to market to, because at the end of the day, it's the parents with the buying decision, even though the kids might mither the heck out of them. Oh, I saw this really cool move, and daddy, I want to go and learn it. It's like, yeah, cool, whatever. But generally speaking, where would you say different audiences are? Bearing in mind, obviously, it may change over time, but right now, if you're like an MMA club looking for adults, or if you're a family club looking for kids and family members, where roughly where are the audiences?
This is a very broad stroke. Okay, so take what I say with a pinch of salt. It's a very, very broad stroke. But you've got Facebook as our generation and older, actually. There are a ton of much older people than us on Facebook. But generally speaking, the kind of the daily active users on Facebook are probably within 5 years of our age right now.
So we're talking 30 to 40, a little older.
Exactly, younger than that, they tend to be on Instagram, or then we go over to Snapchat and TikTok.
So if you're like fitness kickboxing or maybe MMA, so you got 20-year-olds who want to get into that kind of thing, that's probably a better place for you to go than say Facebook, typically.
I think so. I think so, because Instagram's great. I love Instagram because it's so visual. It's such a I know I've got issues with Facebook as an organization, but I know Facebook own it. But I think it's such a beautiful app, because as you scroll through, you're just it's a very creative way of building a brand online. And then Snapchat and TikTok. I absolutely despise TikTok. I think that it is the worst form of social media.
I love it,
but I can totally see why that is an important part of some brands' marketing strategy. Because if you are trying to target, say, 11 to 18-year-olds, where are they online?
On TikTok.
They're on TikTok. So use it. And actually, TikTok advertising, the prices have just dropped quite a lot.
Really?
So, so it's quite an accessible way of hitting a large group, especially in a local area. Same with Facebook and Instagram, that you can target very specific areas. Snapchat, very similar. Snapchat's cost for advertising is really reasonable. I'm not going to go as far as say it's cheap,
No,
because none
but
of them are cheap.
no, absolutely.
But it's very reasonable, and the return on investment there is going to be excellent, because that's where your target audience is.
TikTok and Snapchat is not something that I use. I have a TikTok account and I have a Snapchat account. I have no idea how to use either one of them.
So one thing I would say, if you are a brand or an organization that deals with young people and you are targeting them on Snapchat and TikTok, be really careful from a safeguarding perspective.
Gotcha.
And that's one of my big issues with TikTok, is around safeguarding. You need to be careful. The content you're posting, those engagements you're having with your audience, you need to be careful. TikTok is notorious for degenerate content.
Gotcha.
And so you need to be very, very careful with what you're doing on there. I tend to steer away from it as much as possible. So even though I'm working with schools and we're trying to, target sixth form, for instance, trying to market to those, I won't use TikTok at all. We use Snapchat quite a lot, but I will not use TikTok.
Because of I suppose it's quite a toxic platform at the minute.
It is, and it has been for a long time. Even when it was Musical.ly, it is. I mean, toxic's the perfect term for it. It's it's not great, and young people, really young people are on that. It's not uncommon for 9 and 10-year-olds to be on TikTok.
It's really young for social media.
It is, and it's really terrifying.
Well, yeah, when I was that age, I was down the woods, I don't know, playing in playing in the woods and hitting trees with sticks and stuff.
And from a moral perspective as well, I don't think we should be targeted advertising to those young people. It's too young.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's not appropriate, in my opinion, to target advertising to really super impressionable young people like that. It's not okay. Some organizations will. Great, fair play. You have your own set.
We're not going to criticize those who do, because it's just their values. It's what they do. Absolutely. I mean, and to be fair, people have been doing it for generations. I mean, you go back onto early 90s TV, it's like the adverts for Toys R Us. They weren't targeted at parents. They were targeted at us. I know it's a very different way.
It is.
Because you're specifically ticking the box that says, I want to target this age range.
So I guess the difference there is that although television is somewhat gendered, I can target young boys between the ages of X and X who live in this area. That wasn't possible.
No, it's incredibly focused.
I can target them down to a postcode.
Wow.
Whereas on television you can't do that. So the television it feels much more safe, and it's regulated.
Yes.
So social media isn't regulated yet. There are plans for the government to so Ofcom, for instance, are kind of in talks with the government at the moment about that. I'm not sure I necessarily, I don't agree with that. I do think there needs to be some regulation online, but I don't know how that works. I don't have an answer for it.
I wouldn't even know where that would begin.
But
it's worth knowing, actually, because it's something that our industry will have to prepare themselves for, because I'm a big advocate of triangulation marketing, which basically means you use at least 3 forms of marketing. And for us, we do online social media marketing, we do print media, which is never very useful, but it has a long-term effect, which is the likes of leaflets, and we don't really do magazines anymore because they have zero effect for our particular area. But we'll leaflet drop schools, we'll walk around the streets, and actually, to be fair, that's been pretty good. And the final one is referrals. So if social media goes down, like Facebook did, we've got 2 other areas of our triangle to rely upon. So the fact that they're looking at regulating that potentially in the future, be it 12 months or 12 years down the line, it's certainly worth preparing for.
It is. And 2 things to what you just said in terms of that, not having social media as your only marketing strategy is really important. When you are a company or a brand, only being on social media is silly. Because
and this comes from somebody who runs digital spaces. But that's what I love. It's about this is what you do, but even you're advising, don't just be on social media.
You have to have a bigger picture, and like you say, if it all goes down, then
or if it gets super expensive, you get priced out of advertising.
Right. So iOS 14.5 that came in June this year raised the price and reduced the
reach.
The specific reach of advertising on Facebook and on Instagram and on various other platforms. Actually, Snapchat released a thing in the last 24 hours saying they completely underestimated how big the impact would be on them. And so that you need to be prepared for that. You know, later this month, Facebook have got they're talking about launching this thing called a metaverse, which is basically
the heck is that?
No one really knows.
Okay,
it's
even Facebook doesn't know.
The idea that it's a social media platform that's kind of all encompassing, and it's
right. Do you reckon they're going to merge like Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp all together, or something along those lines?
I don't want to make any predictions.
I suppose
I'll definitely get it wrong. But, it's, you know, this idea that Facebook has become toxic. You know, recently we've had people coming out about, you know, the kind of the ethical practices behind what happens at Facebook. And so ultimately, if this continues, people will fall out of love with Facebook and they'll move away. And we've seen it happen before. It happened with MySpace. It happened with Bebo. It happened with other platforms.
Vine.
Right.
I
Vine.
flipping loved Vine.
Right.
Yeah.
And so these platforms come and go. Facebook has had longevity, but these platforms do come and go. People get bored of it.
Yeah.
So this is my second point. You need to be keeping up with trends within social media. So there's this great new platform called Voice, which is currently in beta.
We've spoken about this. I was devastated because it's only on iOS right now. I can't use it on Android.
No, that's Clubhouse. We're talking about Clubhouse.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah.
So Clubhouse is a really smart way. I'll talk to you about that in a moment.
Lovely.
But Voice is really interesting because you have to verify who you are. That you are not allowed on there until you've verified your identification.
Okay.
And in terms of, it's all around NFTs and other stuff. And
for those who don't know, NFTs,
non-fungible. I don't know how you say it. Fungible tokens.
Non-fungible tokens.
And so it's growing, and it's an interesting way of creating unique content that isn't going to be taken out of context and isn't going to, you know, this whole Donald Trump fake news social media that just doesn't exist on Voice. And so that's really interesting. But
sorry, I interrupted your flow.
No, that's okay. I just goodness me. Clubhouse. That's what we're talking about. Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is a new form of social media. It's now on Android too. And basically you don't type anything, you speak, and you go and listen to speakers, and it's a really interesting platform. And so one of the things we do at MDM is aerial photography and video. And so I want to get into first person view videos through drone flying. And so one of the things I wanted to do was find out more. So I got on there and I started listening to these experts around the world talk about it, and you can join in the conversation. So you virtually raise your hand, they invite you up to the virtual stage, you can ask questions, you can speak, you can do this, that, and the other.
That's impressive.
And it's a really cool platform because as somebody who works in martial arts, it's a really great opportunity for you to build a network. It's a great opportunity for you to develop your knowledge and to share experiences with people and hear other people's experiences. So it isn't massively well known. They have got well over 1 million users now, but it's all about keeping up to date with these new platforms, because ultimately there is going to come a day where Facebook is going to be obsolete, and advertising.
Well, they're changing their name, aren't they?
They're changing the name of the Facebook company, but not the Facebook.
Okay, gotcha. So the brand stays the same.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
it's
going to be obsolete.
But ultimately, yes, there will be a time when Facebook is no longer useful and no one's making money off it. So then we move on to other things. But you need to keep on top of that. And it's, and that's another area where a good social media manager or management company will know what's coming next. They will be able to look on the horizon and say, right, we recognize that these new platforms are going to be a really great opportunity for you to invest in and grow your brand through those. Clubhouse, I think, is an amazing one.
You see, I was thinking for Clubhouse, is it all live or are there pre-records?
No, it's all live.
Okay, cool. Because I was initially thinking maybe it's like a verbal blog. But if it's all live, then it's about connecting and building an audience, so that when you go on and you speak about, I suppose Dave Kovar's a great one on this on Facebook, but he could be literally he does articles on Facebook, like a short blog on Facebook, and they're always really poignant and really good based on his experience. But he could do that live as a talk on Clubhouse.
You're right, exactly. Wow. And then people can ask questions, so he can answer questions. I think it's amazing. It's given me access to some really interesting insights around social media and around growing a brand online. Because there are some people out there who are just stunningly clever and really know how to kind of work social media, and they're willing to share that information for free.
And it's funny you should say that, because I mean, I don't know what order these episodes are going to come out. I mean, I think what you're saying is so important that I might actually end up releasing this earlier than scheduled. But I had a similar thing with another person that I spoke to. I think it was Don Deedigan, actually. We said the same thing. People who are truly successful have enough success in their life that they are happy to help you for free. Yeah. Obviously, they're not going to give you all their services for nothing, but they are happy to give you some help and some hints and some what have you. And I think that's a great way to spot somebody who's actually successful.
But I think it's really important as well, because, you know, as someone, you know, I'm not going to claim to be a highly successful business, or, you know, I'm only 18 months into the business, but, you know, we did have a really successful first year. We made a lovely profit, and you know, lots of businesses don't make a profit in their first year. So I was really proud of that. And as a result, I'm able to give some time back to people. And I think that's really important. You know, I've had people call me up before and say, look, you know, we don't have the budget for social media, so what do I do? And I've spent an hour on the phone just talking them through what to do. And I don't want to do that for everyone.
No, of course. Well, it would take up all your time.
I don't have time, and also, you know, I have to make some money. I've got to pay the bills.
It'd be like me teaching for free. It's like, I'm happy to do so, but I need to pay the bills somehow.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it is important to give back to the community. And so, you know, I've done some work with charities, for instance, where we haven't charged them because they're charities. And obviously, if that money can go straight back into the cause and helping the cause, then great. That's better. So there are people out there who will help you out free, and Clubhouse is great. And I don't know, because I've not looked, but I imagine there's a really big martial arts
I will probably, because I've got some time after this interview, I will probably go and have a look today.
You really should.
Now that it's on Android, I'm well up for that.
It's fabulous. It's really, really good. So that's really good.
So I asked beforehand if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your tips. Now I know that you've already shared a few, but you got any tips for people who either looking at building a digital space or trying to wrap their head around social media or anything in that kind of digital area at all?
Yeah, some bits that I think will kind of help you kind of look at the bigger picture of stuff. One of the things I always say to clients when they come to me is your key factors when you're looking on social media as kind of how successful you've been. It's about engagement. And Facebook will give you really good information, and Snapchat will too, about engagement. Engagement being how many people have interacted with the content you put up there. So having a good reach is obviously really important. So how many people you can get in front of is important. But if 99% of those people are not interested in your brand, then your engagement is going to be very low, and there's kind of pointless. I remember years ago when people used to, I was in a band, and we used to kind of compare ourselves to other local bands, and it was really clear to us that people bought followers. And so you could pay for followers
on Facebook and Instagram. You still can today on
possibly.
I see it from time to time,
but it's a really stupid thing to do. Absolutely, rule 101: do not do that, because when you put content out there, if you've got 10,000 followers but only 2 people are liking the content you put out there, what's the point? What's the purpose? And Facebook's algorithm will pick up on this. The more people who like it, the further afield it gets shared. And so you need to be really kind of conscious about creating interesting and engaging content for your audience so that they do engage with it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Now, one of the things that we've done for a long time to help with that, and you might say, no, Damo, don't do that anymore, that actually hurts more, is that when we put stuff up on social media, and we do Facebook an awful lot, I'll go to my team and I'll be like, look, guys, can you comment and chuck a heart or something on it, so it helps to push it out? And so we'll actually get our team members involved in that process, and for them it's a 20-second job. Go on their phone, go on Facebook, click like, write a comment, and then leave it. And would you advise to keep doing that kind of a thing? Or?
I mean, why not? There's no harm in doing that. It seems a little bit
sorry, you don't have to be polite.
Okay, a little bit fraudulent in terms of, but actually there is no real harm in that, because when they like it and when they share it and when they comment on it, that then appears on their friends'
helps
feed.
To push it out.
So it does push it out. So it's a useful tool to have, and as long as those comments and those likes are genuine,
yes.
If And that is it about creating content. One of the best ways of creating content is to create a conversation. And you do this very well, I think, actually.
Oh, I appreciate that.
But you post something that stirs people to want to contribute.
Yeah.
And I know that your Reelacgrapher staff, they do contribute to that conversation, and it's not a one-off comment. I'm just going to chuck a comment in here. It's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, because something we don't want to do is, as an example, if we put a post out that I want to boost later, so it's set up like an ad, and I'm going to boost it later on down the line. What I won't have my team do is go on and say, "Oh, this looks amazing. Where can I join up?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're an instructor. Get lost." It'll be, "Hey, great post," or something very, very just generic to help to push it out there.
And it does help. And it really does help. And I don't know this because I don't think anyone truly knows what Facebook's algorithm is, but I think that the more regular visitors you have, hence the reason why they now have badges on pages and stuff like that.
And they've increased them as well. It used to be one that got like 3 or 4 different badges.
Yeah, and so the more regular people you have, the higher it ranks on other people's feeds. So,
gotcha. So those top fans that keep they're doing you a really good job.
Yeah, and even if you don't have badges turned on, they're still being recognized as top fans. They just don't.
They just don't. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. So it still recognizes them. It still helps push it out, even though you may not have activated your badges. Yeah. But it's still probably a good idea to do so.
Well, you can do. I think that's really nice.
I like it. I've got the top fan of a few places that I comment on regularly, and I was like, "Oh, I've been recognized. It's amazing." So I think some people like that. Absolutely. I'm one of them. I'm like, yeah, give me the attention. I'm all up for that.
Another tip, there's something that I think is really important, is make it easy to get in touch with you. So if you put a post out saying, we're offering 10% discount if you join up this month, get in touch.
How?
Well, okay, you've not given me any information. There needs to be a phone number, an email address, a website. There needs to be somewhere for them to go. You might have messengers set up on Facebook or on Instagram so that those messages can come in there. Some people don't have that. It's entirely personal.
It's like with you with the WhatsApp. I know that you don't like WhatsApp.
I don't.
So we when we communicate with our other podcasts and business, we use Telegraph, which is great. But also I know that Facebook, if they allow you the option to connect your WhatsApp to your ads, they're like, do you want to add a send message button or do you want to add a send WhatsApp button? I know that helps to push it out a little.
Just to clarify, I don't actually hate WhatsApp.
Oh no, okay, maybe hate's a bit of a broad,
And one of the things I've done by removing myself from WhatsApp is removing that communication access, and which has had a bit of an impact on the business. But the reason I do that is that half of my business is with schools, and
good point.
Sometimes members of staff will send me images of children to put up on social media,
and you can't have that on your phone.
And I just don't trust WhatsApp as being a safe, secure platform. Therefore, we use Telegram, we use Signal, we use other platforms that are definitely safer. But that's not to say that if you are a martial arts business, and it's another martial arts business that I've worked with through you, they use WhatsApp for everything, and that's great. And the marketing stuff you can do on WhatsApp is really powerful. It's really brilliant. So do use it. I would just say, just be careful. I wouldn't, anything that you think is a bit confidential, I wouldn't put through there, because despite it being so-called end-to-end encrypted, I'm not convinced by that.
Fair dues. Fair dues. No, I like that. And it's very honest of you as well, because I think that's what people lack when it comes to these particular industries. Not the whole industry, that's ridiculous. But as we already mentioned, there are some people who will just take your money, put out a couple of posts, and their job's done. It's like,
absolutely. Hey. And there are so many charlatans out there, and you just, a big bit of advice when you approach a media agency about taking on social media management or anything, actually, ask for some of their previous work.
See, martial arts businesses should be good at this, because I know that for years and years and years, whenever we approach a manufacturer for gloves or uniforms, what's the one thing that we always ask for? We want proof of your quality. So it's like, okay, great, I'll use you, but send me a uniform or send me some gloves so that I can have a look at it. You're doing exactly the same thing with digital space.
Exactly.
It's like, show me some stats or show me your work so that I can see that it's actually getting out there and you're going to be worth it.
So if you wanted the website made, you'd be an absolute moron to just go to a website agency and say, yeah, make me a website.
Yeah,
because
because
you want to see the standard of work they're producing.
I know that when you made my website, we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
And it's a relationship.
And it was a lovely process because I got exactly what I wanted.
But it is a relationship. And I saw the other day on Facebook, it's made me laugh so much. £49 for a website. And that's all in. That's everything.
Okay, so what, they just buy the domain and then chuck something on it and it's all yours.
And this is it. And then people underneath, they have 600 comments underneath for people going, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. £49, that is criminally low.
Yeah.
But then when you look at the websites they're producing, they are criminally bad. So you know,
it doesn't matter whether it's a physical product or a digital product. You buy twice, you buy cheap, you buy twice.
And it's very true. Yeah. And I think, you know, you build a relationship with that person and with that agency that you're working with, because it will pay dividends later on. One other thing, just before we go,
absolutely,
this is something that I've had quite a few clients, and it's a learning process for everyone. This won't happen overnight, and you know, some people are expecting results to be instant, and social media just does not provide you with instant results. It's an investment, and over a period of time. And I usually say, right, 3 months is a decent amount of time for us to be able to see the impact that we're having. You won't, a week in, you will not see that immediate impact. So 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, have those kind of milestones marked along your journey, and check in, look for and ask for data, and say, you know, right, okay, how many new followers have we had? Right, so we've got X amount of new followers. Has our engagement improved? Oh, it hasn't. Why hasn't that improved? And ask questions. You need to be semi-knowledgeable in this kind of industry in order to be able to ask the right questions to ensure that you're getting that return on your investment. It is really important.
And that's a big reason why I asked you to come on the pod today, because, you know, I've learned a lot just sitting here, and I consider myself to be kind of more on the savvy side of things when it comes to social media. And as it turns out, there's still a ton that I can learn. So I appreciate that. And it's
one more thing before I go. I'm just giving it all away.
Andy, you crack on. I'm going to you go for it, man.
If you are doing this on your own and you don't have access to an agency, you don't have the money or whatever, one of the best things you can do when you're researching and trying to work out who your audience is to go and look at similar brands to yours. Go and look at who is your competition, who is following their page. Have a look at who those people are, who is liking the page, who's commenting on the page. Look at those, kind of roughly what age are they, what gender are they, all of those things. And then you will have a good idea what content to put out, because you can, I don't want to say you should copy anyone, but you can take some inspiration from people.
I like that.
And so go onto their pages, look at the content they're putting out, look at what is getting the most engagement. And you can see that by the likes or the comments or the hearts or whatever it is, or retweets. Go and see what content they're putting out and do very, very similar things. Just try not to tread on anyone's toes in local area. You'll upset some people.
And on the flip side, because I've had it done to me, if you notice that someone else is copying your content, maybe not exactly, but close enough to be like, you stole that idea from me, take it as a compliment.
Be flattered.
Absolutely. I get it all the time. No names. But I noticed that when I set up 18 months ago, we were doing so well on the social media side of things. And again, partly for your help, so I appreciate it. But we had another group, much, much bigger than what we were, copying what we were doing. And instead of like, how dare you, blah, 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 it's like, you've got to understand that when it goes on social media, you lose all ownership. So first off, get over that hump. It's not yours. And secondly, take it as a compliment. It's like we're a small club by comparison, by design, and we've got this much bigger organization copying what we're doing. Fab, we're doing something right.
Copyright is some, another thing that, one of the things we do at MDM is we're 100% copyright compliant.
Nice.
And you should be too, because you could end up in some hot water. And there are tons of pages out there with free content and free images. Don't just Google search something and take the first image you find, because you could end up in some hot water. But ultimately, nothing is original. It's everything we do even is taken inspiration from 2 or 3 other places, and you just take the best bits and put it into your product and hope that they all work together. And
absolutely awesome. Now, there is one question that I ask every single guest when they come on, and I always send it ahead of time so that you get a little bit of time to think, because it's a big old question. But we believe, have done for many years, that one of the best ways to learn is through past mistakes. And so, what is the biggest mistake you're happy to share that you've made in your career, and what did you learn from it?
My biggest mistake was not putting a business plan together when I first started the business. Just going, I know social media, I know I've done X, Y, and Z. I'm just going to go at it and just give it a best punt. And I didn't have a kind of a long-term plan, and I didn't really know how to grow. When the business did grow quite quickly, I didn't have plans for that. I didn't have any way of managing it, and it got very, very messy very quickly, and very stressful. So I guess if I was to go back in time and do it again, I would have had a really solid business plan in place off the cuff. And since then we've had several versions of a business plan done, and to start off with, I just found a template on Google and used that, because it organizes you, it focuses your attention on the areas that need focus. And when you run your own business, you have so many balls to juggle that you are going to drop one, and that's okay. But if you're dropping one, and then as a result of that, you're dropping several more, all of a sudden things come crashing down pretty quick, and then the pressure is on, and you have to very quickly pick those up, or otherwise everything is going to come down around you.
I like that.
And so for me, it is just about that kind of organization. Running a business is about being organized. And if I wasn't at all, we're just kind of I don't even know.
It's like, we'll just get on with it. It'll be fine. What's the worst that can happen?
I know. Right?
I mean, you could be bankrupt, lose your house.
Right.
Absolutely.
But seriously,
I
hadn't even considered any of those things. And actually, it's just really quite scary.
Yeah.
And things like, managing tax and something, I hadn't even considered it. And I was like, money in, money out, money in, money out. And it's
don't get me started on tax.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But it's really important.
Yeah.
And so if you are just starting out your business or considering it, get a business plan in place, speak to people, speak to other organizations.
And I think you can use the same skill set as well if you're going from part-time, and so you have a day job and then you do martial arts part-time, but you want to do it as a full-time career. Have a plan for it. How are you going to get there?
For sure.
Lots of people will just make that jump and that leap because their commitments might not be they might not have any. So you might not have children. You may not have to worry too much about the roof over your head, because the option might be to move back in with your parents. And obviously there's going to be some people out there who do have children and have mortgages, and that's why they have a day job, but they're desperate to make that long-term leap. And so making that plan is going to make that a reality, as opposed to just, hey, I sink or I float. It's like, you're probably going to sink. And planning for the future, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, we've just reevaluated where we are. So we've got I've got 2 employees now, and so we've recently, the 3 of us have gone through this kind of plan for the future. Which clients are we taking on? Who's going to manage those clients? And so we're not taking on more work than we can handle, but we've also got enough work coming through the door that we're able to float.
Gotcha.
And that's it's that balancing act, and that's something that I really struggled with.
Oh, I love that. And I'm going through a similar thing at the moment. I'm sure some of the martial arts people might be able to relate. We teach from community centres and school halls. I do that as a business decision because it keeps my overheads down. But unfortunately, on the flip side of that is we don't have a secure location. Now, one of my locations has just let me down, which means I've got to find a new hall pronto. Otherwise, we have nowhere to teach next week on this particular day. And so I could probably get a hall tomorrow. But the problem is that I need to think about, okay, that's great. At the moment in this location, I've got XYZ number of students, but I want more students. So I need to find not only a hall for next week, but I need to find a hall for next week, next year. So that when we have grown, we don't have to move again and again and again, because every time we move, it upsets people. And then people will leave. So it's, really important that even something as simple as picking a hall, you're not planning for the number of students you've got currently. You're planning for the number of students you want in a year or 2 years' time, so you don't have to leave.
Absolutely. And it's a big part of, I lay in bed at night and think about it all the time, but that kind of dreaming big, and it's, and I think it's really important to have a big dream and kind of go, do you know what, I want to have 10 employees. I want to be working in this industry, and I want to be working with this company, and have those targets, have those goals. But have that reality very well kind of firmly grounded, that this is where we're at right now, this is where we want to be, and this is how we're going to get there, but this is how we're going to manage it in the short term. That is really important.
I love that 3 steps right there. Now, obviously you've already mentioned a little bit about what you're doing in the future, and I've had the opportunity to watch your organization grow, and you've gone from you doing website design, being able to give that to someone else, to now doing something you're more happy with. And by I mean internally, not a different company, with regards to like videos and that sort of thing. So what's kind of like in the future for MDM? What are you hoping to get to next? Or what have you got in the pipeline?
So we've literally this week just stopped taking on any clients at all.
Wow.
We've taken on a couple of really big clients, which I'm super excited about. So we're not taking on any more work in the short term.
So there you go. If anybody thought this was just an MDM advert, you're gonna have to wait, I'm afraid. He stopped.
No, and so we will evaluate again in the new year. But where we're at the moment, we are at capacity in order to make sure that all of our clients are getting the attention they deserve. I would like to grow the drone side of things in the future. It's something I'm really enjoying. I'm doing tons of video work at the moment, which I'm also really enjoying. But the drone stuff would be really good.
That'd be awesome.
Who doesn't love flying stuff around? So that, but in terms of the future, we're just really focusing internally on our current clients and kind of nurturing those relationships, making sure that everyone's happy, everyone's getting the service they deserve, and we'll see.
Amazing.
And then next year we're going to be splitting the business in two. So at the minute we are.
I don't know why I sounded so shocked. I didn't know this, but it didn't require me to go.
That's okay. Yeah, it's not a big no. It's just because at the minute we have our commercial clients and our educational clients. So in September 2022 will be MDM schools and MDM commercial. So we'll have the two sides, and then Hayley, who is she's marketing strategy at the moment. She's amazing, absolutely wonderful human being. She will be heading up the commercial side, I'll be heading up the educational side, and then we will be growing those together.
Now it's interesting. I just had a thought off the top of my head, because we do an awful lot of work for schools, and then we still run our after school hours. It's not an after school club, but it's between 5 and 8 p.m. in the evening when schools have closed. So it might be worth, and sorry, I'm literally just thinking about how I could split my own business as well. Might be worth doing a similar thing for myself. It's like, okay, so this side of the business works purely with schools during the day, PE classes and assemblies and all that kind of thing. And then this team or this part of the business works only on the afternoon and evening clubs, which is where we make the majority of our income.
So in terms of the long-term plan that I was talking about a moment ago, it's just so that Hayley can nurture that commercial side, I can nurture the education side, and we can grow both.
Wow.
I don't have the capacity to oversee the growth of both of those. That is a full-time job in itself. So in order to kind of manage that, Hayley will do commercial, I will do educational, and then we will take people on to actually become managers of clients and stuff like that.
And so from our side of things, at the moment, what I have to do is I'll go to the school, I'll teach the lesson that I've been booked in for, and then I'll go to my regular classes and I'll teach that, and I'll get home and I'll be absolutely exhausted. Whereas, I mean, I have a big team, but it might be worth looking at having one of those individuals do all the school work with their own small team, and I manage all the after school work.
So we're doing it, we're kind of doing it now, to be honest. It just becomes more official in September next year.
Sense.
And it's working really well. Having another brain to not burn yours out is really, really helpful. Having someone who you can, and it needs to be someone you trust, someone you can rely on. And Hayley's been with me a while now, and I trust her implicitly, and I know that she is invested in MDM and in the brand, and she wants to grow it. And so it's really nice knowing that I don't even have to think about it. I can just hand it over to her, and she will just leave it to her own devices.
Awesome.
And we will see profit as a result of that. And that's a really nice position to be in.
That's amazing. Oh, Andy, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
Now, if you are interested in any of our services and you're listening to this, get in touch. We're at www.mitchelldigitalmedia.co.uk. If you just wanted a chat, or you just wanted a bit of advice on your social media, please get in touch. We're very, very approachable and very happy people.
I can second that. Like I said, I don't like to bring people on here that talk about their businesses if I haven't seen it firsthand. I have seen Andy's business firsthand, 100%. In fact, it wouldn't, our brand wouldn't look half as good as it does without you. So I can second that for sure.
But really, we love to speak to people. So if
Mm.
you want to get in touch, please do. Drop us an email, give us a call. It's
Where,
all on our
where are you
website.
on social media, given that that's what you do?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook and Instagram. We did have Twitter, but I got rid of it. It's just, can't be bothered. And we're on LinkedIn too, which there's another form of social media
Yeah.
that probably wouldn't be too useful for your industry.
I don't really use it.
No, I don't think there's much of a purpose, but for some of the commercial businesses we work with, it's crucial they're on LinkedIn. So yeah, so we're on there, not super active, but we're on there. But active on Facebook, active on Instagram. So yeah, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you.
Wonderful, Andy. It's been absolute pleasure,
David.
and I really appreciate what you've had to say. And I'll catch up with you another time because we tend to speak to all the time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.